great day, everyone. We'd like to thank the organizing committee for inviting me today for sharing about the vaping and new smoking products, chemical content, and impact on health. So, just giving a general overview. So, myself, is my name, so called Hing. So, basically, I'm currently based in Sunway University, Faculty of Medical and Life Science. I'm currently the head of Sunway Biofunction Molecule Discovery Centers. Well, for today, I'm going to give some glimpse of idea about my background and how it's actually related towards the topic today. Yeah. So mainly, I started my career in Monash University, so School of Pharmacy. During that time, I started with the Biofunction Molecule Exploratory Research Group, a small group that actually working on all those like the functional molecules of the chemical constituents from herbs and microbes and so on and so forth for different applications for human being. So along the way that with the growth of the group and being invited to Sunway University, and this is where that I'm heading the Sunway Biofunction Molecule Discovery Center. So in short, a small research group grown into a research center. Basically, we conduct a lot of the different kind of the testing and screening activities, including cancer, neuroprotectives, microbial lipids, and so on and so forth. But it's subject towards like the collaborations and leveraging the expertise of different experts within the faculty, universities, and also across other universities as well. So moving forward, think most of the time for those who attended my sharing, normally I will put this image. This is a core, I would say that the core principles on how we actually started with the research group. So the question is always a black or white cat is considered a good cat. Yep. So you might give you a guess, yeah, if you liked. Yeah. And I think the concept is simple. As long as the cat can catch a rat, it's deemed as a good cat. So what is going to be the correlation between this image and our core principles of what we actually are doing? Because we strongly believe every single compounds that actually occur in our nature, it poses some usage of beneficial use for human being. It's just for us that we are in lack of the human capacity or capability to under-review all their functions for benefit of humankind. So that's a reason that majority of the studies, we need to really understand the background or the history use of the compounds and so on. Then we actually can cut short or lower down the investment of the research on the specific active components for the research. Yeah. And in hope we can find something useful for human being. Yeah. Okay. So our center is currently under the Faculty of Medical and Life Science in Sunway University. And this is just some brief general review on what we do have and also the facility within the center. So we are good in characterizations of the chemical constituents. We have X-ray crystallography and MMRs, and we synthesize, we do in silico and so on and so forth. Depends on expertise that within our center and also faculty. Then in terms of application testing, we're not just covering for human health. We have a project actually working together with engineering group for environment, like carbon dioxide capture, agriculture, aquaculture setting application, with the fundamental understanding that we know that biochemistry pathways or pharmacological effect, they actually more or less sharing same between the humans and other biological organisms like animals. Yeah. So in short, this is just a general overview of our center, and you can see some of the setups of the facilities, MMR, X-ray, DSC, CSNS analyzers, and so on and so forth. And along the way, we invested in the technology, which is the single cells technology. Yep. So this is the sorter. In short, that currently only one in Malaysia that are actually in our center now. And I would say that these sorters can make sure that our separations of the single cells with the viability up to 99% and above compared towards the flow cytometry, this is like we can confirm the viability of cell is super high, that so that it will be relevant for our research and so on. And we invested in scanning ion conductor microscopies as well. So these particular machines actually only one in Southeast Asia, where we can do a very fancy research, like one cell we can do the nanobiopsy. So it means that the cell is one cell, we can poke inside there, we can take the cytosol, and the cell still alive, you can poke a second time and get the cytosol for other study. But anyway, it depends on our capacities of the sensitivities of next experimentation. Well, we also can study the stiffness of the cells, which is currently no so-called good bioassays that actually can look into the stiffness of the cells. And with this technology, we're able to do so. And you can see when we integrate both of them together, actually we can work on the clinical samples as well, like circulating tumor cancer cells and so on, and for the studies along the way. And this is just an example. So with the technologies that the single cell sorter, the only one in Malaysia, we can play around with the coordinates of the cells and the locations of it. So you can see that as the MDC, I'm not trying to do the promotions and everything about center, but every single spot I'm trying to show over here is a one cell in that sense. So we can do a staining and we can study the cell-cells interactions and so on and so forth. Well, our center also innovation hub for Sunway Multicare Pharmacies, that actually we work on the clinical trials for some of our products, functional food products, and also we do some of the in-house innovations for the product developments as well. So this is just some general review about centers. So talking about the topic that we need to cover today, so I'm just giving some of the glimpse of the landscape that we will be covering around here. So we will start with the e-cigarette or the vaping part. I think this will be taken up the majorities of our short discussions and general review about this topic of sharing today. Then we will touch a little bit about HTP, so heated tobacco products. So they have like ice cores, glow, prunes, which is growing in Malaysia. Then we will touch a little bit about the hookah or shisha. Yeah, rather popular in the cafe and also among the youth in Malaysia. Then we will touch about the nicotine pouches. Basically it's emerging products, and also the smokeless tobacco, which is quite common in Southeast Asia as well. So, I would say that this is some general overview. We will jump through the topic now. So starting with the vaping. Well, over here, the point that I'm trying to highlight over here is, if let's say you look at the statistic over here, so 2017, so we have like around 10% of vaping adolescent, and there's an increase of the percentage of user. While combustion smoking, which is a conventional tobacco that we're aware of, so it means that you need to light up them and so on with the fire. Yeah, and you can see there's a dropping, but the point I'm trying to highlight over here, in Malaysia, actually, we are taking around 20 years of effort to reduce like the use of the cigarette among the youth from the 13 to the 12, 6.2%. Well, this is shown to be successful in terms of the combustion cigarette use. It took us around more than 20 years, if not mistaken, since the effort started. And the point I'm trying to highlight here is, but the decrease on the cigarette use has it means that while it's dropping, but the vaping use and so on, it has been increased significantly. Well, roughly, 1 in the 4 teenagers, they are using the tobaccos as well. Yeah. And the point is, there's high percentage of adolescents nowadays actually involved in the vaping, especially, which is causing the countries the real concern, which is we try to reduce the combustion, but the vaping is increased across the years. And we know that the vaping is rather dangerous as well. It's bad for the health. which is I think majority of the public might not be that aware of. Later, we will going to go through some of the information in general way to highlight some of the dangers and everything, the impact on the health and so on. Okay, let's move on. So, well, I guess that you know about the vaping. Vaping basically, we have an e-liquid, which is like combinations of the different cutting agent, which is used to dilute, or sometimes people call it solvent. So, cutting agent like polyethyl glycol, vegetable glycerin, and there's a nicotine inside there as well, and also the flavoring agents that give a different taste of them, the flavor of them. Well, through this liquid, basically it will be heated up. Yeah. So there's a heating coil that actually increase the temperature to 200 or 300 Celsius in that sense. Then there's a pyrolysis occur. Then we got the aerosol. Well, the point here is e-liquid will be converted to aerosol, and that aerosol that will be uptake. Not uptake, it means that it will be smoked by the user in that sense. And through the process, there's a formations of a lot of like constituents or the metabolites that actually form through this process. And I think over here we are putting the three main groups over here: the carbonyl, acrylenes, and heavy metals. And I think like carbonyls, there's a formaldehyde category, acetaldehydes, and so on, which is like we know that they are bad for our body. And acrolein is one of the, I would say that the volatile components actually released by the diesel engines of the truck and so on. And just imagine that through this process, because of this heating process, acrolein, they are being released as well as a part of aerosol. And I think you might be start to think that you can imagine that someone who are actually vaping basically is like smoking from the aerosol of the truck. Maybe you can take it in that way, yeah. And well, heavy metals as well, it might be leached out from the coil, which is like the metals that actually being used for the heating process. They might be leached out into the liquid, and somehow it carry up as a part of the vapor, and that's why the heavy metals will be taken out by the bodies as well. While the heavy metals effect on the body, I think I won't need to go through in the deep detail manner, which is I believe you might be aware of at the moment. Well, in short, I would say that e-liquid in the vaping process actually heated, and there's an aerosol came out. So partially we know that e-liquid might not contain the heavy metal, but heavy metal might be came from the coil part when they're being leached out throughout the heating process, which is at the end of the day, I think the user will be exposed to all those like the metabolites and volatile components and also heavy metals at the end of the day. That's why vaping is causing a lot of health issue. Well, moving forward, over here we actually having the another additional information that actually, if let's say we look at the process over here, we actually trying to segregate further, and you can see polyethyl glycol, which is normally used in our region, especially in Southeast Asia, as a cutting agent to dissolve the components like nicotines and so on and so forth. While in the West, especially maybe in the US years back, they normally using the vitamin E acetate, not mistaken, as the cutting agent, because their products are with the THC as well. So the cannabinoids based components are being involved. That's why the vitamin E acetate is being used the cutting agent, while over here is like polyethyl glycol and vegetable glycerin that are being used mainly for the nicotine-based e-liquid preparation. While flavoring, we have the vanilla fruit ester that normally you can find it in the market. It depends on the market niche. Sometimes they might even, I heard that even like tartaric taste and everything, which is really subject towards the flavoring, and also they know the markets of population they are trying to target for. Well, I think here we know it will leach out from the bottles and so on. Well, each of them, if let's say we look at the category like PG, VGA, and also flavoring agents and so on, majority of time, we're aware that actually those ingredients are for in the food categories and so on, and they are deemed to be safe, right? So they are deemed to be safe in the general manner, which is they are in liquid manner. But the fact is there is no real testing. I think now we do have more and more studies being done. When we categorize they are safe, if let's say they are in the cold condition, which is in the liquid form. But through this heating process, with the certain coils and so on, then it turns into aerosol. Actually, we don't know the metabolites actually will be formed. Yeah. So over here, we will see just some of the known category, but in the similar category of them, you have even more compounds that group together for, which is sometimes we don't know. Like for example, we talk about 200 degrees Celsius plus minus. Every single Celsius you have the so-called the heating process might convert to different chemical constituents and the proportions of them. You wouldn't be knowing exactly how it's going to be. Yeah. So the point here is we really can't be sure how many components will be formed throughout the same source of them. And the point is the fact that in the so-called the market setting, that there are different form of the combinations and so on. You might have a chemical reactions along the way through the heating process. We will diversify further into a different end products of the chemicals in the aerosol. The fact is there are so many of them and we don't know, and majority of study it can't be done because you need to do one by one, and also you just think about what we know about synergisms and also that kind of the effects and everything. When the different combination percentage add together, how it will impact our bodies and so on. We can't be sure that the fact is, yeah. So, well, I would just say that because we have an additional heating process and the chemical conversions might be occur and the proportions of the chemical constituents output will be different as well, the ratios of them. And all of them add up together, increase the diversities of unknown scenario. Right? It might be safe as a beginning, but through this process, we can't be sure. That's why this is quite tough to sort of like understand at the moment. And even though people claim it's safe, well, it's safe until something is proven unsafe later on. So, well, I would just say that if could, just try to prevent it. Now, well, over here, we're just putting additional informations along the way that you can see nicotine, formaldehyde, acrylenes, diacetyl. This is the key toxic chemicals, but we are just putting in the general manner over here. And you know that the classifications and also the health risks impacting basically every single organs or the regions of the body, and how we actually classify them, including the brain, respiratory, and so on and so forth. Well, moving forward, I think just laid up additional informations over here. I think, well, you might be aware about Bali, and I think now maybe 46 case or 48, if not mistaken. Yeah, and they being recorded by Ministry of Health at the moment, and we don't have the so-called biomarkers at the moment that actually will be straight away. Like for example, COVID, we have the test kits and everything to quickly confirm the disease. But for EVALI, basically it requires a multiple diagnosis manner to confirm it. Yeah. So the process in confirming it is taking time. That's the reason sometimes the patient might be getting the support, which is like slightly slower in the sense to confirm the EVALI. And we know that the treatment cost for the EVALI is super high because you need the long-term supplies and so on. I guess we need more than 100,000 just to treat a patient in that sense. Yeah. And we have a neurological effect. We know that the brain of the adolescents is still growing. Yeah. And if let's say at the starting early age and so on, that the brain is being exposed to the nicotines and so on, then it will be causing the so-called the candidates to be addicted, and also the brain functions might be impacted as well. Well, cardiovascular, I guess you might be aware of, including like arrhythmias and erythemas, isolate arterial sclerosis, oxidative stress, and so on and so forth. Well, that is just if let's say the normal e-liquid or the normal vape that with nicotine, right? And flavors and so on mixture. But the fact that trying to highlight, I guess, that the governments that rampassants and all those like the vape liquids and so on, 65.6% of them of rampassants actually found to have dangerous drug. Yeah, you can see that the K-pop, which is like happened I guess last year in Singapore, that actually they actually found out the e-liquids actually, or the vapes actually, through the Johor custom and so on, and they actually causing a lot of like issue in the country in Singapore, and they banned the vape eventually. Yep. And we have cannabinoids as well, so the spice or K2 analogs can be found as well. Yep. And also benzodiazepines is being found. In short, they are being the additive or add into the e-liquids and through the aerosol, those candidates, and also those persons being exposed towards these so-called the adulterated drugs as well. And if let's say you look at this, I think it's like more than 400 vape cases linked with synthetic drug stranding case for the ban, say Minister of Health, which is just came out on 20th of June. And detection of synthetic drugs such as benzodiazepine and then MDMA, cannabinoids, and so on and so forth. You can see even the meth is being found, yeah, within the products in our country. This is actually highlighting the seriousness of the vape problem in our country. As a beginning, just how we gone through was just like the general weight that with the nicotine, we already have so much of uncertainties and the health impact. And if let's say it's being added with the drugs, then it will be even worse. And this is a fact, and which is actually happening as well. And there's a reason that it's rather critical, that, and also we need to take it seriously in that sense. And maybe we touch back a little bit in terms of the concept idea why vaping or e-cigarettes, so-called, is like grow in that sense. I think you can look at this image itself. You can see is like over here is like across the time point, and also here is a nicotine level. Well, if let's say we look at the combustible cigarette, this is a white graph of it. So it's a old tobacco, so you use a lighter, you light up and so on, and this is a nicotine level. So this is addictions point, I would say, that nicotine, which is like cause the people to get addicted. And if let's say we look at the nicotine itself, it increases quite fast. And initially, when the people come up with the vape, actually why it's not adopted in the market quickly, because during that time they just add with the freebase, which is just the nicotine itself, and you go not getting the threshold that needed to enjoy that shock level of it. So the of it is not there. Yeah, in that sense, that was the reason that initially the vaping is not that considered penetrate the market well, and also the taste of it as well. Yeah, because they not reaching the threshold. And along the way, through the understandings of the chemicals and so on, then they prepare the nicotine salt in that sense. And nicotine salts actually giving the more or less similar that actually the people are actually seeking for as comparable towards the conventional cigarette. That was the reasons that the vaping can be very addictive, because it's just similar, and in fact it might be having even higher the nicotine content inside the e-liquids as well, which is in reality it is. Well, here is just to showcase that progressions of it and the science being used in the, sorry to say that it's not in the very encouraging way, and people are being addicted in that sense. Well, we know that adolescents increase in the vaping, and we know that just now I highlight a little bit of the brain formations process and so on. And we know that if let's say in the early age of the adolescents, and actually when they are growing up, along the way the brain are still rewiring along the way. If let's say it's the presence of these nicotines and all those like stimulating agents actually present inside the brain, it will cause the brain wiring process and everything, formations process might be impacted. And if let's say you just imagine in the early age, they are so-called addict towards the vapings and all those like e-cigarettes and so on, then it will be carried throughout the life. Well, we say that this concept we strongly believe, which is like everyone are aware of. Likewise, like Ministry of Health, we trying to educate some of the preventive measures, and any campaign we start with the early age. Well, same goes towards the industries as well. They do understand that we need to start with, they need to start with the early age, and also to get their consumers grown throughout the years. That's the reason that adolescents, they are considered the most vulnerable group, which is we need to really look into it. And also, most of the time, adolescents who are vape are 3 times more likely to progress to combustible cigarettes as well, which is like the effort that previously you mentioned, we're trying to reduce it down. Now it's vaping, maybe it's not reaching towards like the threshold that they needed. They might add on with the combustible cigarettes as well. Then it will be really wasting all our efforts of our country to overcome this problem. Well, this is just some myths and facts, everything that trying to list over here. Like for example, vaping is just a favorite steam. The fact is, no, it's a complex chemical aerosol and ultrafine particles. So it's not just the water vapor. Water vapor is just the heated H2O. Well, here in context like what we have gone through, it's not, right? So nicotine-free vapes are safe. Study showed many, even the zero nicotines like just now when we gone through all those like the sharing just now, just the cutting agents, everything itself, we know that it will be form different metabolites, and they are really bad for the bodies as well. And some of them, they will claim that vaping will be somehow help with the quitting the smoking. It's not. So drug use is very common, in fact. Yep. And if let's say quitting the smoking, don't you think that it's supposed to be without nicotine? But vaping is with nicotine as well, right? EVALI cases are occur within months of first use, rather than not just about the long-term usage, which is the fact that there's some users just started and they leads to the formations of the EVALIs being detected as well. Maybe you touch a bit EVALIs as well. EVALI was started with US side, if not mistaken. And likewise, just how you mentioned, in the US side, we do have like all those like vitamin E acetates and so on are being used as the cutting agent. And while over here is like PG and VGs that being used. why I'm raising this up is the understanding of the diagnosis part, it might be different as well, because the source materials, they are different, and through the heating process, we have a different metabolite form, and the fact that in making the diagnosis process might be getting even difficult, and I think the biomarkers research are still ongoing at the moment, yeah, in that sense. We're done with the vaping a little bit here and there. Now we move towards the heated tobacco products. Just now was the e-liquid. Well, this one is the tobacco products you can put inside there and heat it. There's a panels of the heating blades inside it that will be heated up. Then we call this like heated tobacco products, which is like sometimes you won't have that much of the aerosols actually you are seeing compared to the vape. Well, this is just an example. One of the icons, you have a glow and also the plumes as well, which is like quite common in the markets. And these are, I think, 3 of them, and now we have even more. That if, let's say you look at them, and this is a real tobacco leaf, which is a PG and VG humectants actually added as well. And you have the this device, they have the heating blades inside there, and around 350 below combustion point. It means that it's not lighted up, but it's just heating it, right? Light up is like you use a lighter to light up, but this condition is like the heating blades just to heat it up. Yeah, something like our kettle boiling process, right? All those like the metals and everything, but this is a blade that actually just heat up the tobacco. And aerosol generated, they still contain nicotines and also the toxic compounds. And user inhale, not combustion, but it doesn't mean that it's risk-free. Yep. And I guess that you still have a lot of tobacco-specific nitrosamines that actually produce, like acrolein, nicotines and everything. And since there's a humectants as well, then the tobacco stick generates same degradation products as vaping. Like just now we gone through some of the components. This kind of the devices through the heating process, it still generate quite numbers of the harmful and also carcinogenic agents that actually are in a volatile form that enter into the body. I guess the industry is trying to position the products as a reduced risk, and actually independent evidence and everything is like inconclusive. And the fact is there's no independent data on long-term health outcomes, because the products might not be more than 20 years and so on. It's still considered new. The data that accumulated is not sufficient as well. I guess there's no so-called reduced risk terminology supposed to be mentioned in that sense, because we are, how to put it, we are not supposed, if let's say as a normal person and so on, that is something that extra, it is not part of our life. And why we are actually taking it, the fact is just no risk and with risk. Well, this context with the industry trying to put reduced risk, I guess is just one of the strategies that actually trying to alter the perceptions of the communities of the users and so on, right? Okay, Malaysian regional context and so on, you can see all those are the informations and in terms for the heated tobacco products. Well, we're done with the heated tobacco products, which is just give you some glimpse of ideas as well on the hookah or shisha. Well, I think hookah is a apparatus. Shisha is a tobacco ingredients that actually add into it. They are quite commonly found in the specific cafes and so on within our countries as well. And sometimes people will say that because of the presence of water, it will remove fractions of the toxins and everything. And the fact is they remove a very small fractions only. The nicotines, carbon monoxides, and so on are still passing through. And here, shisha is just flavored fruit tobacco, milder than cigarette. No, it's actually contain benzene, formaldehyde, arsenic, and lead. And same as cigarette. And one session is equivalent to few cigarettes at most. No, actually, one session is 100 puff, let's say, or 200 puffs. Exposure is more than cigarettes. Sometimes people say that single sessions already is like 100 pieces of cigarettes and so on. Is truly, yeah, don't know what to say. It's just, it just prevent it, yeah. And charcoal combustions at carbon monoxide and so on, which is just I mentioned. So deep inhalation confirmed by nicotine measurement. So it means that when people trying to say that there is no so-called like the secret exposure, nicotines and everything, but the fact is we know that from the so-called healthcare setting, we can do the cotinine measurement. Basically, we are still able to detect it, and in fact, it's very strong, the detection levels as well, even compared to the cigarette sometimes. Yeah. Okay, I think in that context, basically will affect the respiratory, cardiovascular, and which is I believe we will be aware of, definitely. But on the same time, it's actually increase infections because there's a shared mouthpiece, transmissions of the TB, herpes, hepatitis, meningitis, everything as well, which is leads towards the infection, which is caused by the infections as well. And oral cancer risk as well, independent of tobacco type, right? Nicotine addiction definitely is there. And pregnancy complications, low birth weight, preterm birth, and so on, even for the second-hand smoker in that sense. And at the moment, I think the shisha cafes, they are quite popular among the youth. And studies from Kelantan found shisha use among late adolescents with same toxic exposure profile as cigarettes as well. Yeah. Well, in short, hookah, heated tobacco products, all of them are still quite bad and very bad for the body. And moving forward, not too sure you are aware of, there's a nicotine pouches as well. So a little bit of the pack up, yeah. They pack up then with the powders, plants, fibers, everything inside there. So small pouch of it. Then we'll put under the lips and gum, and nicotine will be absorbed through the oral mucosa. Well, just say that here is the new products, which is rather the new form of inverted comma delivery. Yeah, this is a new form of delivery, which is you can be found in other countries. But the fact is, there is no approved as smoking cessation tools in by the Ministry of Health as well. And there's a chemical files, everything's over here as well, and you can see them. And oral health, the gums recessions, and a lot of like oral issues as well, oral health issue. Cancer, yes, nicotine addictions, and also the youth concern mainly because they add on with menthols and all those flavor, more or less similar concept is the vaping process. And there's a lot of social media marketing that to drive among non-tobacco users as a new gateway products. This is just to give you some glimpse of idea. There's a new products, which is a new form of delivery of nicotine products in the markets as well. And here is like smokeless tobacco. You might be aware, like years back, not years back, still occurring in some part of the countries, which is you will know that Sireh, Kapok, Penangs, and also the mixtures of them. Then there's a chewing process, and we're aware that will lead to a lot of oral health issue and the cancers as well. Basically, the point here is just to highlight that there's still a lot of like tobacco-specific nitrosamines, like NNKs and so on, the chemical components of it, which is like leading towards the DNA damage and oral cancer formation. So polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons that will be formed as well. Yeah, they are chewing the tobaccos and so on. You have a lot of like chemical constituents that affect and formation cancer. And the pinang or bitter nuts and so on, there's alkaloids that actually known to cause the fibrosis and also reactive oxygen species cause oxidative stress and formation of cancer. And calcium hydroxide, the capols and so on, increase the oral pH, enhancing the nicotine absorptions when they use together, but also it will damage the oral mucosas and so on and so forth. Taking all together, I guess this is more so-called the old fashions of the tobaccos use, which is smokeless tobacco. I believe you might be aware because still remember very young age of mine when I was young, actually seeing a lot of like people are still chewing them, and majority of them are not here anymore. Yeah. Anyway, I think this is just another point that actually we need to aware of. This is another form of the tobaccos actually can be found in our regions. Yeah, which is supposed to be getting away from. Yeah, and also we need to aware of in that sense. Well, smokeless tobacco and oral health, the evidence basically chewing will increase the carcinogen contact with oral mucosa, and just how it mentions already, and for example, it will cause the burning, fibrosis, and also restricted the mouth opening because of fibrosis, and cancerous conditions, malignancies increase, and so on and so forth. Basically, these are oral health problems that actually will lead for as well. Yeah, not just about the lung, because basically the user will need to buy and be exposed is direct in that sense. And I guess sometimes tobacco companies they're trying to put it into that doing comparisons of the relative risk and so on and so forth by looking at the exposures to cancer addictions, lungs, oral, and cardio risk and so on. Just now I mentioned, this is not supposed, I would say that as a normal person, this is not what we need to survive in that sense. I mean, the tobacco and how we use it and so on. And the point here is just to highlight the risk is there, then it's there. There is no point that we highlight which one is like lower risk and higher risk and so on. The fact is they are with risk, yeah, in that sense. You like it or not, it's combustion cigarette, hookah, shisha, smokeless tobacco, heated tobacco, e-cigarette, nicotine pouches, and so on. They are all with risk. Yeah, nothing is so-called reduced risk or lesser risk and everything. The fact is we are just looking at with risk or without risk in that sense. And talk a little bit about the Act 852, which is you might be aware there's some changes and also executions, which is during the process actually when giving an example, when doing analysis in terms of the vaping, the vape liquid, the e-liquids initially, people found out actually the content of nicotine is actually higher than the normal cigarette, and that's why that the government put the restrictions in terms of the concentration of cigarette and also the volume of them across the year. And also you can see that there's a lot of like regulations and enforcements along the way. In the sense that Act 852 also covered the bitter quick and the smokeless tobaccos as well. Well, key takeaways, I think nicotine is not, addiction is not decline, and it has been diversified in that sense, and educators need to understand public health and clinicians as well. Chemical harms is not limited to the combustions. Vaping and everything actually generate a lot of the metabolites that will lead towards the formations of the conditions and everything and the disease in our countries. So Malaysia adolescents disproportionately is affected, and also the percentage of the vaping is increased and everything. So the vaping epidemiologists alone need the urgent clinical and policy attention. And Act 852 is representative and also meaningful progress, but ingredients, covers, and device safety is everything. This is a point that actually currently the agencies need to look into the context as well. And perhaps we can refer a framework from China's, EU's, and so on to prepare for the further strengthening use of it. Okay, with that, I would say that these were references and the resources, everything you can refer for. And the jump quick, everything you may refer to the, for example, the context on the page, and also perhaps the check errors as well, which is the AI part, which is helping a lot of improvement in the community in terms of quitting the cigarette use. With that sense, I would say that that's all from me. And also, I would say that thanks for spending time with me. Yeah, with that, thank you.